Can you all see my slide? Yeah, can you see my slide?
Yep.
All right, excellent, guys. A very, very, very warm welcome to webinar 4 of the Life Transforming series. I want to kick off context. At this point in the program, you've done so well to be showing up consistently, and we have 28 of us on today, and we have a much larger cohort. So where is everyone? And in the world of performance, how many of us slip away into some form of how we do everything is how we're showing up here. And you want to be your own pattern interrupt to how you do stuff. To be consistent is a very simple tweak. It's a micro tweak. It's a micro shift to just saying, I've just got to show up once more. And I've just got to commit to one more week. And focusing on week are the micro shifts that at the end of it, when we have 13 micro shifts together, we have this phenomenal paradigm shift. So look at the people in your teams, look at your teammates, look at who do you need to support, empower, who in your team can rely on you, who can bank on you to be their source of showing up, an inspiration, or accountability buddy at an additional level, because it truly makes a difference to have us all show up powerfully. And we do remind you with little nudges along the way about what an amazing feeling and reward it will be if we just stayed consistent. And many of you can think about something that you might have created or committed to at the start of the year. We're now in the last quarter of the year. But think about something that you might have committed to at the start of the year as a New Year's resolution. How many of you remember a New Year's resolution that you created at the start of the year? Not a goal, not a want, not a desire, but something you resolved to do, to take on. And you might have even forgotten that you even created that as a resolution. You might not even remember or be aware to maybe whether you did it or you completely ditched it after 3 or 4 days of committing to it. And though some of you might have stuck to it and might be living the benefits and effects of whatever your New Year's resolution is. And you would have experienced, those of you that stuck to it, the power of the compound effect. And just like that, at the start of the year, we're now in the 10th month of the year. You can look at what is possible in 10 months of having declared something, being committed to something, being consistent with something. And likewise, think about today being day one. Think about your first challenge, if it's a first challenge for you, being a first challenge. For those of you that this is your second challenge, you are doing phenomenally well showing up here and showing up consistently, even though you might know the information or a lot of the content. That's the stuff that doesn't make the difference. It's the implementation and it is the show up shit. And so Michael has this beautiful quote: don't fear failure, fear being in the exact same place next year as you are today. All of us have that capacity within us to cause a phenomenal transformation and shift. All of us, especially Ancora, as we introduced to you in webinar 1, what we call being unmessable. What does unmessability look like from your perspective? What does and how will being unmessable show up for you? What does being unmessable mean, or how will you be unmessable if you are consistent and regular? How can you be unmessably dependable and relied upon by your teammates? Look at which of your teammates are not here. How many of you have your teammates message saying they will be on today? Communicate they'll be on. You did a roll call maybe within your team and they're not here. And so please do nudge your teammates, be the source of their transformation. Be the person that they come on a Friday surgery and they acknowledge you for that. Don't seek it, don't seek acknowledgement, don't act for the acknowledgement, act out of your commitment to the people that you want to really take through this transformation journey. I say this today because today we had a coach's call, and it was quite an emotional call with the coaches where a couple of people were sharing about losses or deaths that have happened in the very recent week or two. And I lost somebody in the last month plus, where we feel had they just shown up consistently to their health game, we would have had them around. And some of us know people around us who, if we could really be committed to inspiring and empowering them, they would be around. They will be around. And you can be the source of them being around. And often it hits us after we may have lost somebody. And I'm sorry to use a life and death based scenario as an example, but sometimes we do need that kind of a prompt to actually get that what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with that open heart surgery. That's what we're doing on these calls. We're dealing with that liver transplant. We're dealing with that whatever needs optimizing inside and within us. So that's what this webinar is. That's what a FitBanker challenge is. So we're going to now have somebody generate this powerful objective. And before I can even ask, Tejas is the quickest hand in the East to raise his hand. And I trust that you're raising your hand to read out today's objective, Tejas.
Yes.
Your hand went up so fast, like somebody else lifted it for you. I've seen that happen in audio. But well done, Tejas. And go for it. Please read this out powerfully. I want everybody here to experience the power of Tejas, to get a sense of who you are, where you're from, and for them to really experience the energy where you are. So go for it. Read right from the start, from FitBanker right down to our mantra at the bottom.
FitBanker, the life transforming series. Welcome to life. Objective. At the end of this challenge, I'll be someone who has altered my own relationship to food, exercise, and myself. Understands the real role of my body, mind, and intellect. Knows that my environment, community, and conversations dictate the consistency and quality of my health habits. Inspires and empowers my community to take on their health too. Through my social media and in person, sharing to show up as a health leader and a go-to person. The more I normalize and share what I value, my healthy lifestyle, in person or on social media, the more the world around me is inspired and empowered to start living a healthy lifestyle. Everything is transformable.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I hope we all got the powerful energy from India. Thank you, Tejas, for so powerfully generating that. Now, please do share with us what of these objectives have begun to show up for you. What have you fulfilled upon? What are you fulfilling upon?
I have fulfilled upon the first point. I have altered my own relationship with food, exercise, and myself. And also, I've started to understand the real role of my body, mind, and intellect. The first 2 points.
So give me an example of how you've altered your relationship to food. What was your relationship to food prior? What were foods that were the norm? What is new and different now?
Before, I would eat anything which I wanted to, and everything like normally I'm in the market delivering and taking orders from the retail outlets. So at every shop I would go, I would take something, some munches to eat or something or the other, or share with them and have a conversation with that aspect. Now I keep the food aside. I have stopped eating those munches all the more, and at the same time, I've stopped consuming roti, rice, and lots of other stuff, and shifted to the whole new dynamic of food which I never used to consume. And
but why is that? What has caused the shift? What's the why behind why you've done that?
Why behind is things happened in my life in the last 2 years, so I'm looking forward to make some changes.
No, but why have you, say, discontinued roti and rice, and why are you consuming foods that you don't consume? What's the difference between those categories of foods? What have you learned about them that says that's the reason why I'm discontinuing that, and that's why I'm continuing this?
To lean towards much more healthier lifestyle, so that people can bank on me, so that if I'll be fitter and if I'll be present in the moment and stretch myself all the way long, then only they will be able to rely on me.
Yeah, cool. So why am I asking these questions on all of us? Like we say, you don't discontinue something or have something because we said so, or because it's the design of the program, just because we're telling you. We need you to understand the why behind it. the science behind it. And you experience it, of course, but if you understand the science of what you're experiencing, like more energy versus you're eating stuff casually and you feel a slump in energy, we want you to move from a taste-based, or in your case, what you said was a social setting eating. We eat what's socially there in conversation, in the markets, what's offered out of courtesy, out of politeness, or convenience or ease. It's available while you're out in the markets, versus actually now I need to fuel myself functionally or dharmically, which is just as you have a purpose and function in your family, in your community, in your businesses, food also has a purpose and function inside of you. Proteins behave a certain way that we looked at last time, carbs behave a certain way, fats behave a certain way, and we need to know how to use which fuel for what kind of function, right? We wouldn't put diesel in a petrol car, right? We wouldn't use the wrong kind of fuel or too much fuel or too little fuel when we need just this amount of fuel for this function, for this purpose, right? And what was there for me is I've been vegetarian all my life, I'm vegetarian now, but I had a mismatch in the timing and the quality and the quantity of what I consumed that was not aligned with the task I was about to engage in, or I just finished engaging in. So that's what we looked at in webinar 3. But at this point, everyone should really understand, why are we discontinuing this? Why is that an inflammatory food? Is it inflammatory? Is it truly creating a blood sugar spike for me? Is it creating a crash? We need you to discover that. And that needs to be experiential for you. You need to experience that impact. If it's a negative impact, you need to experience the impact if it's a positive impact. And no one should blindly follow or take our word for what we say. So you should really understand why we're discontinuing something and how have you formed a new relationship. So formed a relationship from taste or social setting based to functional, to energetic food, right? To understanding why we're taking something on and why we're discontinuing something. Angela, is it adding to that? I saw your hand raised.
Hi, Ronnie. Yeah, I just wanted to add in there. Before I actually started the FITBANKER program, I've been going along for about six months, 9 months, even every other month, having antibiotics related to sinus infections, related to urine infections, and antibiotic after antibiotic was all creating gut crashing. And from these carbs that we kind of consider the forbidden food list, I would have at least one of those along with sugars once, 3 times a day minimum. And from taking them away, the bloat that I had in my upper gut, the discomfort from eating that I used to suffer from, that's all gone again. So just out of personal experience, that has helped, figuring out that maybe there was a gluten intolerance that was leading to some of these issues. All the antibiotics have upset the gut biome, and yeah.
Amazing, Angela. That is brilliant for you to distinguish. And you must remember this moment in time. I say you must remember this moment in time because when I first experienced the first difference of how my body responded, or I stopped getting headaches, or I stopped getting breakouts in my skin, or I stopped getting crashes, or I stopped dozing on the couch, I noticed it in a moment, and certain things happened without noticing till somebody asked, like, hey, you stopped dozing, or even simple things as passing gas frequently, or whatever it was, right? Or indigestion, or bloating, or whatever it was. So if you note this now, sometimes it goes away for a while, and then we forget that that was the shift that I valued so much. I valued being free of those antibiotics. I valued not having the discomfort after a meal. I valued feeling energetic and not sluggish after a meal. So you want to really journal and document this thing, in addition to you verbally journaling here, which you're doing, which is brilliant. But it's amazing to see that you have then had a life of daily you're creating a spike and inflammation, and then daily you're trying to medicate that thing to suppress. But you have to keep putting the medication if you keep creating the source. So we are working on this program on the source, not the symptom. And a lot of medication is treating the symptom. But for as long as the source stays in place, the medication has to stay in place, because the symptom will be a byproduct of the source. We're removing the source of inflammation. And so it may be a gluten intolerance, it may not be a gluten intolerance. But one thing that certainly causes inflammation is the high glycemic index nature of wheat. So wheat is not necessarily bad. For some people, the wheat protein, the protein part of wheat, which is seitan, is actually the gluten part. If you have a gluten intolerance, then that won't work for you. If you had pure seitan and didn't experience the discomfort or other intolerances, you might find that actually wheat protein is good for you, but it's the other stuff that comes in the wheat that isn't good for us that creates the blood sugar spike. The seitan on its own won't create the inflammation unless you have a gluten intolerance, which in which case it will. So we need to find out, each person needs to find out for themselves, what is the thing that is causing the discomfort, the dis-ease in their body. But so powerful, Angela, and so powerful, Tejas. Thank you all for sharing. And I really invite all of you guys to really dive deep into this. In webinar 2, we looked at values that a coach is working with you, and they're going to be coaching you on a model called VBC, values-based coaching. So when you're either in action or not in action, they will be coaching you on and giving you feedback on and maybe critiquing the action, not you. So look at these actions, which is, what is your modus operandi? Are you performing conditionally? Which is, hey, I'm going for the walk only if I get acknowledged and people cheer me on in my group that I did the highest number of steps. Last few days, I've been doing 13,000 steps and everybody else in my team has been doing 17,000 and I don't feel acknowledged, and you suddenly feel you're disempowered and not motivated to carry on because you find that you only thrive when you're smashing it. And that's what's called conditional performance, which is I'll only perform when I'm acknowledged, winning, acing it, smashing it, recognized, the light's shining on me. Look at where you slip up. And where are you slipping up and using that as, it's okay, I just got to say, new day tomorrow, which is you make a joke of yourself. You make humor of yourself. You diminish your own relationship to your own word. You have no value to what you say you can do newly or differently. Parv came to Fitreat with us, and the whole week, or at some point in the week when we had a second check-in on our body composition, it was like a big turning point, which is now I'm not having this, and this. And there was a completely clean palette after that, right up to the time that we left. And sometimes we just need that one tipping moment where we alter and we realize it's minuscule amounts of one biscuit here, and if you're in Europe and anyone goes to Europe, it's like a sin if they served you coffee without a nice little cookie next to it or a little biscuit next to it. So there's always a biscuit there, and we're always telling them, just give us the coffee and take the biscuit and the sugars back. But they always come together. It's like a fixed setting. And we have to really operate from our values and be a demonstration of what an observer will call discipline. And if we do slip up, we bring empathy and compassion, which is, I was dealing with some anxiety, something was there, or whatever emotional pattern you're aware to that made you slip up and do something. Experiential learning, like if Tejas or Angela can notice right now, this is what I'm discovering is really different about my energy levels by going into the market and not having those foods, even though everybody else is around me having those foods and they still seem to be working long hours. They're them and I am me. But me, I feel a lot more energetic going through that, working in the heat, being more productive, actually feeling fuller for longer, and getting to sleep with energy each night. What you discover about you, I'm just assuming these words and suggesting these words, but you want to find out for yourself, what is it that you experience that you're learning from? So these values, as a reminder, you can screenshot them, you can read these guys over and over again, consider it will contribute to rewiring your mind and how you perform. But guess what? It will also contribute to your mind and how you perform, not just in the area of nutrition or exercise, but maybe in the area of making money, maybe in the area of being unmessable in your business, maybe in the area of you being a very productive finance guy or accountant or engineer, whatever it is. If you really look at these values, they will support you in multiple other areas. These are just 6 values out of multiple values that we have that our coaches get trained on to be amazing performance coaches. Now, we're going to look at fat loss, and we are getting close to day 30 of the challenge. Day 30 is next week. Day 30 is next Tuesday. And next Tuesday, some of you, many of you would have lost a lot of fat. I want you to know, most of you, if you're losing something, predominantly it's fat. Fat, those of you that love your chemistry or miss your chemistry, I'll remind you, is made up of carbon molecules, hydrogen molecules, and oxygen molecules. To be specific, 1 molecule of fat is 55 molecules of carbon, 104 of hydrogen, and 6 of oxygen. In that ratio, they combine and compound together, sometimes in the presence of things like sodium and nitrogen, but that CHO combines in that ratio. How then do we break fat down? When we say fat melted away, or we're breaking fat, or we're losing fat, there is no single pill out there that you can consume that will burn fat away. There's no pill that you can consume that goes in you and knows how to isolate only the fat molecules, but spare the rest. So if there's anything that claims to burn anything in you, it will burn everything in you, right? Which means it's likely poison, it's likely toxic, it's likely going to terminate you pretty quick. The way we actually break down this composition, the way they combine, is they get broken down at a certain vibrational frequency. That vibrational frequency is when we push our activity level to a certain level, and we will then consume oxygen, which merges with that fat, and it will create CO2, carbon and oxygen molecules combined, and release them. And it will create hydrogen and oxygen molecules and release them as water. And so 10 kg of fat in your body, when we inhale about 29 kg worth of oxygen and we work our butt off, we will sweat. We will lose 8.4 kg of that fat through breathing it out. We will breathe out altogether about 28 kg of carbon dioxide will come out as breath. That's where 28 kg of the 29 oxygen and the 10 kg of stored fat will leave us. The balance of that 39 kg, the 11 kilos goes out as water. So 11 kilos of the oxygen plus our fat goes out as water. We sweat it out. So if you want to know how to lose 10 kg of fat, you've got to sweat out 11 kg of water. Think about that. You have to sweat out 11 kg of water to lose 10 kg of fat in your body. So if at the end of your workout, you don't have a drenched top, and the reason why you might see me sharing a drenched shirt or vest photo at the end of a workout is to let you know that it's been effective. And we're going to look at how do you train, which is okay, it will burn some molecules and calories, but how do you train effectively, which is what we're going to look at today. But mathematically, those that want to know, where did my fat disappear? How did it go? Did I shed it out? I want to promise you didn't. This is how it's going to leave you, through sweat or through breath. And so if you buy some of those slimming teas that claim to slim you down, and I buy them, and I've been a sucker for them, but they are not getting rid of fat. They're getting rid of the food you just ate. They have basically laxatives in them, and they're just flushing that thing out. But that's not fat while it's still in your digestive tract. It's okay to have those. They're cleansing teas, if anything, but they're not fat loss teas or fat loss pills. That said, we have a couple of amazing events coming up. On 23rd November, which is going to be the second last week of our 5-week challenge, we have our masterclass is starting. But next session, which is webinar 5 on 18th October, which is not next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, there is no webinar, but it's an opportunity for you to catch up on anything. Maybe there'll be some other opportunities for you to join. There might be some what we call invitation to lead classes and other things happening that you might be invited to on our break weeks. But next week is technically a break week. And the week after that, for the next 2 weeks, 18th October and 25th October, is going to be webinar 5 and webinar 6. Webinar 6 is being run by Ambika. Both these events, you can bring a guest along. And the guest, you can bring a guest or multiple guests along. And coaches, as usual, we're playing a game to see which is the most magnetic, charismatic, and attractive team. So which team can invite and has what we call the pull factor. We teach coaches on what's called the pull factor to invite, empower people to join a guest class. Some of you are here because somebody at your workplace or somebody in your family or somebody in your social circles invited you to join such a guest evening or a masterclass. So they can register on this link, bit.ly FBX90MC. You can screenshot this, and this screenshot will be shared with you to forward to any of your mates as an invite to say, hey guys, there's a FitBanker trial class. Come and see what I'm doing and what I'm learning. And I just figured out to lose 10 kg of fat, I have to drip 11 kilos or 11 liters of water. Or you could use this as an invite. Again, same dates, just different imagery. and it shares a little bit about our mission statement and why we exist. So both of these images will also be shared, or if anyone has screenshotted them, you can share them, but I'll share them nonetheless at the end of today's session. These are your invite cards to be able to share with anyone that you'd like to join on those dates. 18th or 25th are the first two occurrences, and the 23rd November on the same link. They'll get notified of it if they pre-register now of that upcoming masterclass. That said, webinar 3, we looked at some of the assignments, which is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Who here and how many of you took on cold showers? Please do type in the chat. I'm just mindful of time, but I'd love to know how many of you, Urvi, that should be a testimonial, no gas after FITBANKER. You should please do type in the chat if you took on the cold showers, what was your experience, and how did you find it? We at FitReat, Parv, how long did you go? Did you push any one of the days in the ice? We had a nice plunge pool, which was...
I did 10 plus minutes. I got so cold in the head. I thought I did 13. And when I look back at my video, I was like, oh, you only did 10. I was so disappointed because I thought I'd done 13. But I did 10. I did 1 minute, 5 minutes.
Amazing. And this was very, very, very cold. And I think I did 15 minutes. I don't know if I went longer after that. Somebody else, I did 21 minutes. Somebody went on to do 22 minutes. Then they went to 25. And then we said, well, you might as well stay till 30. And she did 30 minutes in this really cold, ice cold plunge pool in Lanzarote, which was epic. And I really invite all of you guys to discover how amazing the human body is. And Salma, well done. Cold showers for 4 days for 2 minutes. Amazing. Currently with the heat in Nairobi after a sweaty workout, cold showers blissful. I can imagine. That is awesome. Seema, I'm assuming you're raising your hand to say you did it, or do you have a question?
No, it's I did cold showers because it's so hot anyway. Even the cold water is hot.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well done. We'll keep it up. And if you can get a nice deep freezer or a bucket where we can load some ice in, invite me over. I'm coming for a dip as well. All right, cool. Webinar 4, what are we looking at? We're going to look at types of exercise, aerobic versus anaerobic. And I want you all to understand the physics of muscle. If you understand how muscles are set up in our body, like what makes that arm go this way, what's contracting for this arm to go that way, then you will know how to train each muscle, isolate it, and individually build it. And so we're going to look at a little bit about that. It is quite an intense webinar today, so please tune in. It's only intense in terms of the number of things we need to cover, but you will grasp it all. And I'm going to cruise through a few of the slides, and you can always watch anything on catch up that wasn't clear. So 2 main types of exercise, what we might call aerobic, and another one that we call anaerobic. Translated literally, that simply means in the presence of oxygen and in the absence of oxygen, or without oxygen. So aerobic means with oxygen. You require oxygen to fuel the consistency of that type of activity, i.e. cardio. And aerobic activity, when you're doing it effectively, you have to achieve 3 things: raise your heart rate, your body temperature has to go up, which will be indicated by you breaking sweat. There are 2 types of sweat that we have now. One is external heat, like if you are right now in Zambia and it's 30 plus degrees, the heat will make you sweat. That does not mean you're losing fat, by the way. That does not mean you're losing fat. So anybody who thinks, all right, I got it to lose 11 liters of sweat, I just got to move to Dubai, is not the answer. It has to be internally generated heat. So your body temperature goes up, is how you sweat, and breathing harder till you get to breathlessness. And so these 3 things when together trigger thermogenesis. When you're doing aerobic activity, you have blood coursing through, fresh blood with fresh oxygen going to your muscles and limbs where they need it. And then the used up blood is taking out the toxins, taking out carbon dioxide, taking out lactic acid, taking out what's finished. Cardio is something that you can do for over 2 minutes and say up to an hour and a half. That's what the definition of aerobic activity is, or aerobic sources of energy. And aerobic source of energy, your source of fuel is predominantly oxygen. Anaerobic, which is most commonly called resistance training or weight training, is where you can pull off an exercise in the absence of oxygen, which is before the oxygen arrives or after the oxygen has run out, right? So I'm intentionally saying that before the oxygen arrives or after the oxygen has run out, which means you need energy so quickly, a reflex action, a punch, a self-defense act will be something you're doing so quickly that there was not enough time for the oxygen to go through your nose or mouth into your lungs and go to that point, but there was some localized energy. And there are two types of localized energy. One of that is called your ATP system or your phosphocreatine system. So when we talk of having creatine, creatine is some kind of fuel that adds to your phosphocreatine, that adds to your naturally occurring creatine in your body. You're just topping it up. You're adding to the reserve, replenishing it quicker, so it tops up what your body needs, localized sources of energy. And the second one is lactic energy. Lactic energy, when you use it, it releases lactic acid. Lactic acid is the waste product of this lactic energy. And lactic energy, or first ATP energy, is something we can use for up to 10 seconds. It's the quick, short, sharp bursts of energy that we demand of our body. So if I were to do a very quick deadlift, or I were to do a quick clean and sweep, that would be tapping into my ATP energy. Or Usain Bolt, who can run 9.9 seconds, will be fully driven by localized energy in his legs, because he's making such a quick demand, it doesn't have enough time for it to go through. You see him at the end of it drop on his knees, he is breathless, and he's trying to recuperate that energy back. He's trying to get it oxygen and get to top up his phosphocreatine or ATP energy system. Lactic energy system is something that we use for more than 10 seconds and up to 2 minutes. So when Usain Bolt goes for a 400-meter run, he's likely going to tap into initially phosphocreatine, ATP, and then move into his lactic energy system. But anything that we're doing for longer than 2 minutes will only be able to be fueled if we're getting oxygen in at a good enough pace, and we're not expending it so fast such that that oxygen can go and fuel, which is our aerobic energy. How much do we need to do then? Well, various regulatory and health bodies recommend 30 to 60 minutes daily by most health bodies. Sometimes we wonder, why do we need to do that daily? But nobody ever questioned why we need to sleep or eat daily. But we need to create the expenditure, the output as well daily, just as we very easily work on the input daily. In the FITBANKER challenge, we recommend you do 40 to 90 minutes of cardio, and this could be LISS, which is low intensity steady state, like walking, jogging, a light run, cycling, swimming, yoga. That would be some form of LISS. Or it could be HIIT, high intensity interval training. So that's quick, that's lightweight, that is short and sharp bursts of energy. Then you need a breathing space to recover. You go again, breathing space to recover. Like when we do go for boxing workouts, you might have 2-minute rounds or 90-second rounds or 3-minute rounds. Or if you go for a Zumba class, same thing. Or you go for F45, same thing. Or Barry's boot camp, or even CrossFit, the WOD part of the CrossFit, or the warm-up part. Some parts of the CrossFit would be tapping into your HIIT side. And when you're doing your workout, as mentioned, the things that we want to look out for is, are you recording an act? We want to record at the end of it our active burn. And is our heart rate going up? Is our heart rate between 70 to 90%? For us, after the workout, to experience EPOC, excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption. And is our body temperature going up? I.e., are we sweating? Are we getting to breathlessness? Is our lungs pumping and thumping? That's telling me that we've had an effective workout. For those of us that want to lose that 11 liters of sweat, these are the 7 C's to fat loss. Cardio, carb control counts as 2 C's, calorie deficit, and are you doing so consistently? And then you're wondering, why is it 7 C's? We can only have effective cardio, and some of you are doing all of these and you're wondering, but how come I'm not losing fat? Because it's very hard to lose fat when we are in a state of fight or flight. And I would like to let you know in webinar 6, not to be missed, the one Ambika is running, we are going to look at the mind-body connection. And so make sure you're here for the next 2 webinars, so crucial, webinar 5 and webinar 6, to really understand as we move from looking at the physical principles to now some of the mental and emotional principles. And so we will be in our state of stress if we're not cool, calm, and collected. And when you're in a state of stress, you are operating on adrenaline and cortisol. When those are heightened, it's very hard for us to trigger fat loss. Fat loss is not triggered when we are in our fight or flight state, because your body is trying to protect itself, and it's trying to store and hold on to this energy, which is your fat cells, your stored energy, or it's trying to top up those stores after you've expended some of it if you're constantly in a state of fight or flight. What to look out for your effective cardio? Active burn, your heart rate 70 to 90%, sweat, and breathlessness. Let's take a look at how do you know how to push hard on a workout. If you are on a treadmill running or on an elliptical machine and I walked up to you and I'm standing by the side and I say, Angela, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is this is too easy, and 9 or 10 means you're dead or dying. And if you said to me, well, I'm a 4 or 5, I'll say, well, that's still piss easy. That's too easy. We need to go a bit more higher, get to a 5 or a 6. That's the early aerobic zone. We're getting into the aerobic zone, which is you're using oxygen at a fast enough rate to fuel get to your limbs and flush out the toxins just about in time. And then we have 8 to 9 on a scale of 1 to 10 would be your fat burning zone. This fat burning zone is where you are, I can't sustain this much longer. I can probably do 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe up to 2 minutes. And then I'm going to have to reduce the speed of my treadmill, or I'm going to have to stop this activity, breathe, recuperate a bit, and then go back in again. We trigger thermogenesis somewhere between 70 to 80% of our max heart rate, but it can go up to 90% of our max heart rate. And now, what is your max heart rate? Your max heart rate is your age, or 220 minus your age. And there's a small margin of error there of about 12, but for simplicity's sake, let's ignore the margin of error. If you're 40 years old, which I was 3 years ago, 220 minus 40 is 180. That's my max heart rate. The 70% of that number is the one I want to remember subconsciously. So 70% of 180 is 126. So when I'm working out, I look at my heart rate. At the end of the workout, it will tell me my average. Was my average at or above 126? If it was at or above 126, then that was an effective workout. If my average heart rate was 90 or 105, I've been taking the piss. What has passed is time and some energy, but it's not really been an effective workout, and I probably didn't trigger thermogenesis. So there will be some little fat loss in the terms of the calories had to come from somewhere, but it might just tap into my glycogen reserves, and I would like to go beyond my glycogen and tap into my fat reserves. How can you create a workout? This is a very simple HIIT workout you can create on a treadmill. Consider the turquoise or light gray bit as a 2.5 to 3 minute warm-up. Then the orange bar is where you run on a treadmill you sprint for like 30 seconds, and the gray bar is where you recover for 60 to 90 seconds. So you slow it down. So I might go to a speed of 12 kilometers per hour I'm running, or 15 kilometers per hour I'm sprinting for 30 seconds, and then I quickly slow down the treadmill and I come down to 6.5 speed. And I maintain that for 60 seconds or 90 seconds till I see my heart rate come down to about 120. And then again, I go back up and I push it for 30 seconds and then I slow it down. I push it for 30 seconds and then I slow it down. I want to basically keep my heart rate oscillating. If I can oscillate my heart rate in a workout between 60 or 70% up to 90, up and down, 7 to 8 times in a workout, I would have triggered thermogenesis. And so this is just an illustrative demonstration or example of how we can do a particular workout to have effective cardio. Let's now look at the other side, which is the anaerobic exercise. Dorian Yates, who is a guru in body composition and formulating good shape, size, and muscle strength. He is a 6-time Mr. Olympia. He says this of many beginners that he sees walk into the gym. The single biggest mistake that most beginners make is putting 100% of their effort into the positive, the concentric part of the rep, while paying no attention to the negative, the eccentric. I'm just going to demo that with a hand motion. They put all their effort into the positive and then they drop it with gravity. They need to concentrate on the muscle when doing the negative part. And we will demonstrate that with some other imagery that comes up ahead, plus some new stuff, guys. So anaerobic, most commonly known as resistance training. What are the types of resistance training? Isolated muscle training, which is basically our training plans. Powerlifting, CrossFit, some types of yoga like Hatha yoga, strength and conditioning, calisthenics. Those are all types of resistance training. How much should you do? Between 30 to 60 minutes a day. But those of you that would like to really work on building some muscle and strength and definition, I recommend you go for a minimum of 45 minutes. So our workouts that we do live on Zoom are generally about 45 to 50 minutes. That's including your stretch and your cool down time. And then you have up to an hour and a half of that kind of strength-based training. So ideally, you want to have your workouts, you can split them by muscle group, and I'll explain in a second what we mean by that. Guys, just bear with me, it might be slight of an emergency call I'm getting, so just bear with me 2 seconds. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, cool. So anaerobic, we can split them across muscle groups, like you have your workouts, you have your chest and triceps together, you have your back and biceps together, you have your legs separately. This is to allow for a good variety of spread. So we work on different parts of our body on different days, and then we allow those to recover while we work on the next part of our body. You can do resistance training through using body weight. You can do it through using free weights, which means like dumbbells and barbells and kettlebells, or you can do it through resistance machines, right? The resistance machines aren't necessarily set up to work against gravity, so they can be set up, vertically set up or horizontally set up to engage your muscle in the opposing direction that will build that muscle's volume, depth, and strength. 3 types of muscles that we work on: skeletal muscle. Sorry, 3 types of muscles that we have. We can only work on our skeletal muscle, which is the muscle that surrounds your skeleton. So if you hear about smooth muscle, your cardiac muscle, your artery muscle, those are things that we can't really control. They're working and doing their thing regardless. Your cardiac muscle is your heart muscle. It's just slightly differentiated because of the texture and the nature of that particular muscle. What we can work on is the skeletal muscle. So, and muscle only contracts. So remember this, when we control muscle, we can only contract it. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So the concentric part of this movement that I demonstrated, we can only contract the bicep. Then what we're doing at the eccentric part, you're relaxing, you're decontracting, you're decompressing. And as you're decompressing, if you use gravity or if you use momentum, you're using less muscle. So gravity and momentum are the things we don't want to use much of to ensure that we use more muscle, or that our muscle is under tension for more time or for a greater part of the workout. So key for us to remember that, which is muscle growth happens. Hi, Sam, sorry that you're unmuted. If you could please mute yourself at your end.
No.
Okay, cool. So there's the concentric and the eccentric part, right? So, and then there's isometric contraction. Isometric contraction is to hold something under tension and hold that posture, right? So how do we hold that particular posture? We can hold that particular posture by like a plank, or where we do wall sits, or where we hold we crunch and hold a particular position, like maybe with a bicep curl, and tense in that particular posture. So those are the isotonic and isometric contraction. But you might also hear these terms, I just want to cover them, called push muscles or push exercises. Push, as an example, you can see when you're doing the sledge push, it is a push exercise. Muscles are pushing in that particular way. When you look at chest press, either on a resistance machine or bench press, you'll be working your pecs. As you're pushing away, your pecs are working. When you're doing a tricep press down, your triceps, you're pushing something down, your triceps are being engaged. Your triceps are the ones contracting. All muscles do is pull, but these are called push exercises. And then you have pull muscles or pull exercises. Your pull ones, if you think about this, why we have combined your biceps with your back is because they're both pulling. As you're pulling something to you, you're working your biceps and your back muscles together. Your biceps below your waist are like your hamstrings. Your hamstrings are exactly like your biceps. So your guns on your biceps are same like your hamstrings. And so when we do a leg curl, that's also a pull exercise. It also works on strengthening that part of our muscle. Now I'm going to play a short video here, and the short video is going to show for you a small demo on how muscle growth works. It's a great video by Ted Ed, so please do tune in, and I'll flag some key points from here, so please do pay attention to them.
Muscles. We have over 600 of them. They make up between 1/3 and 1/2 of our body weight. And along with connective tissue, they bind us together, hold us up, and help us move. And whether or not bodybuilding is your hobby, muscles need your constant attention because the way you treat them on a daily basis determines whether they will wither or grow. Say you're standing in front of a door, ready to pull it open. Your brain and muscles are perfectly poised to help you achieve this goal. First, your brain sends a signal to motor neurons inside your arm. When they receive this message, they fire, causing muscles to contract and relax, which pull on the bones in your arm and generate the needed movement. The bigger the challenge becomes, the bigger the brain's signal grows, and the more motor units it rallies to help you achieve your task. But what if the door is made of solid iron? At this point, your arm muscles alone won't be able to generate enough tension to pull it open. So your brain appeals to other muscles for help. You plant your feet, tighten your belly, and tense your back, generating enough force to yank it open. Your nervous system has just leveraged the resources you already have, other muscles, to meet the demand. While all this is happening, your muscle fibers undergo another kind of cellular change. As you expose them to stress, they experience microscopic damage, which in this context is a good thing. In response, the injured cells release inflammatory molecules called cytokines that activate the immune system to repair the injury. This is when the muscle building magic happens. The greater the damage to the muscle tissue, the more your body will need to repair itself. The resulting cycle of damage and repair eventually makes muscles bigger and stronger as they adapt to progressively greater demands. Since our bodies have already adapted to most everyday activities, those generally don't produce enough stress to stimulate new muscle growth. So to build new muscle, a process called hypertrophy, our cells need to be exposed to higher workloads than they are used to. In fact, if you don't continuously expose your muscles to some resistance, they will shrink, a process known as muscular atrophy. In contrast, exposing the muscle to a high degree of tension, especially while the muscle is lengthening, also called an eccentric contraction, generates effective conditions for new growth. However, muscles rely on more than just activity to grow. Without proper nutrition, hormones, and rest, your body would never be able to repair damaged muscle fibers. Protein in our diet preserves muscle mass by providing the building blocks for new tissue in the form of amino acids. Adequate protein intake, along with naturally occurring hormones like insulin-like growth factor and testosterone, help shift the body into a state where tissue is repaired and grown. This vital repair process mainly occurs when we're resting, especially at night while sleeping. Gender and age affect this repair mechanism, which is why young men with more testosterone have a leg up in the muscle building game. Genetic factors also play a role in one's ability to grow muscle. Some people have more robust immune reactions to muscle damage and are better able to repair and replace damaged muscle fibers, increasing their muscle building potential. The body responds to the demands you place on it. If you tear your muscles up, eat right, rest, and repeat, you'll create the conditions to make your muscles as big and strong as possible. It is with muscles as it is with life. Meaningful growth requires challenge and stress.
All right, awesome. So some key takeaways from that video for all of us is to really understand how muscle growth works. Growth happens with first micro tears and micro damage. The only thing that will tear muscle is by lifting a load greater than you can lift. If you're lifting something you can easily lift, like if you're regularly walking up a flight of stairs and you're used to that, there is no muscle challenge there. If there's no challenge, there's no growth. The only thing that repairs muscle tissue and grows are amino acids. And amino acids are available only in protein. Carbs and fat will not grow tissue in your body. So literally most tissue in our body grows with amino acids. And amino acids are what's present in protein. So why do we consume protein? Why do we have a source of protein? It's the only constructive blocks that build the good parts of what we want. This is why we have a goal to consume a certain amount of protein. But that health a certain amount of protein, but if you have the micro tears muscle, there's no room for growth. There's no building work needed because there's no cracks or repair work to be done. So we really need to understand why we're working out. And if we're not working out, if we're not challenging our muscles, we create what's called muscular atrophy. And so one of the pitfalls or mistakes we make with our elderly is we say, oh, please don't lift that heavy load. Don't carry that for you. I'll help you get that box up the stairs. And you don't go to the gym. And by doing that, by saying that to our elders, we are not using their muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. They experience muscular atrophy, which means their muscles wither away. But their muscle is upholding the skeletal structure. If you have withered away that muscular structure, it's then unsurprising that you find our elders have a hunchback, or they deal with things like hip replacement, or they deal with things like osteoporosis, which is the brittle bone, which is the bone gets damaged because the thing that was meant to support it was not being built and fueled, i.e. muscle. So the older we get, what we've culturally been doing is don't overload the elderly. We actually need to, throughout life, be challenging our muscles. Just like we challenge our mental muscle, just like we may challenge our spiritual muscle, we need to also work on our physical muscle. And by working on our physical muscle, we create opportunities for growth. Now, there are 9 principles of fitness we should all understand. I won't go through all of them, but overload principle simply means no pain, no gain. You got to be lifting bigger than you can. So in webinar 2, when we say to you, sign up to something that you can't do, or create an event, a health event that you might not have done, like creating a walk or a supper club or a webinar for your family, there's some challenge in doing that. But when you do that as an event, or when you sign up to something you can't do, you will mentally, emotionally, ontologically, and your personal growth is enhanced because you did that. Secondly, progressive principle. Progressive principle builds on from the overload principle, which means you can't grow muscle every day lifting the same 3 kg. If you're used to lifting 3 kg and initially it presented a certain challenge to you, after a while, you need to increase that weight, which is you need to go from 3 kg to 5 kg. So there has to be that progressive overload. And you might ask the question, hang on, Ronnie, does that mean I keep increasing it till 1,000 kg? Well, not really. You keep going till your muscle's challenged. And then when you get to a weight where you feel, I can't go heavier, you can stick with the same weight, but you can increase what's called TUT, time under tension. So you can hold it for longer. You might have heard that analogy of how heavy is a glass of water. Well, the answer is depends how long you hold it. I could hold this up here easily for 30 seconds, easily for a minute. But if you ask me to be holding this up till tomorrow morning, I probably can't. I won't be able to uphold this till tomorrow morning. So TUT, time under tension, is also a way of adding progressive overload or progressive principle to your overload. Specificity, your body completely listens to what you subject it to. So if your only form of exercise is walking, don't be surprised if the only thing that you're building is your cardiovascular system, which is, it's an aerobic activity, so you're increasing your aerobic strength, and you might be building your legs slightly, but if your legs aren't carrying an increased load, in fact, for those of us losing weight, the load our legs are carrying is lightened. And so our legs aren't being challenged. That's why we need to do resistance training for our lower body. Reversibility principle. Any of you that have seen, if you stop working out and you take time out and you go on siesta on holiday and you don't go to FITREAT, you might find that holiday you didn't grow your muscles. And when you come back from that holiday, you find, hang on, I can't lift the 60 kg I was lifting, or I can't lift the 40 kg I was lifting. I need to start at 20. How come I've dropped so much? And that's because muscle regresses. Just like if you stop working, guess what happens to the bank balance? It doesn't just keep going up. If you stop making wise investments in your business, guess what happens to the bank balance, the investment balance? It doesn't just keep going up. So the moment we stop banking on our fitness, reversibility principle applies. The time we stop banking on our wealth, or banking our wealth, that balance starts to also reverse and reduce. Adaptability. Your body likes variety. Variety is the flavor of the day, which is if you're always doing free weights or always doing body weight or always doing yoga, shake it up sometimes. If you're always following the schedule, the PDF that FITBANKER sent you, and you're not trying some new studio classes, or you're not going to try out CrossFit, or you're not going to try out a strength and conditioning coach, and you're just doing one type of training, at some point it will plateau, which is number 8, which is we start to flatline. And we don't want to flatline. We want to continually be growing. Regression, similar to reversibility principle, but generally happens after illness, injury. When some of us have had COVID or pneumonia, we find that when we come back to it, we can't immediately get back to where we left off. So it's key that we understand each of these principles to really effectively develop and enhance our fitness. Finally, when it comes to strength training, there are 2 ways and whys and reasons people train with weights. Some people want to train for strength, which is they just want to lift heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, which is a great goal if you're competing. Sometimes lifting heavier and heavier and heavier has what I would call a very low ROI. It doesn't have a great ROI, which is the return on your investment sometimes can lead to more injury than actual growth. Some exercises are more risk prone than they will give you strength. As an example, the deadlift. Deadlift is a phenomenal exercise. It is a compound exercise. It engages 2 or 3 hinges of your body all at once, and it engages multiple muscle groups like your lower back, your core, your upper back, your arms, your legs. The deadlift is a phenomenal exercise, but it's one of those exercises, the more you keep adding, it doesn't yield more and more return. It can yield at some point an injury off your back, off your legs, off your shoulders. But strength training, people that want to do this competitively, how do you increase the strength of your muscle, which is, can your muscle start to lift more and more? The answer is this: the weight you should be lifting should be about 85% or more of your 1 rep max. What's your 1 rep max? Which is, what is the weight where you can only lift 1 rep? If I can only do 1 rep of 100 kg bench press, but I want to increase the size of my chest, I need to be lifting 85 kg of my bench press, 85 kg of bench press, and aim for 4 reps, 5 reps, 6 reps, 8 reps. Over time, I'll get a very strong chest. Volume. Each set needs only 1 to 6 reps. It should be that heavy that I can't go more than 6, 7, maybe maximum 8 reps. In a whole week, I need that muscle to recover. So I need to have, maybe I'll do 5 sets on one day and I'll do it 3 times a week. So I'm saying this again, any muscle you want to work on, that you want to increase strength or develop, say you have weak legs, say you're training for Kilimanjaro and you know you have weak legs and you want to minimize knee injury, work on your legs 3 times a week, or work on your legs 15 sets in a week. It might be split across 2 days, and aim to strengthen the muscle that you want to strengthen by lifting 85% of your max, your 1 RM, your 1 rep max. How much protein do you need, whether you're doing strength training or hypertrophy? You need, as a female, 1 to 1.5 grams per kg of your body weight. If you're a 70 kg female, that means between 70 and 105 grams of protein. If you're 70 kg male, you need up to 2 grams per kg. So between 1.5 and 2 grams. So you need 105 and up to 140 grams of protein a day. I, as a roundabout 80 kg male, need to be nailing 160 grams of protein. And ideally, I want to spread that out across the day. As mentioned in that video, the repair work happens in our sleep. So a lot of us who think that we're building muscle in the gym, we're not. We're breaking muscle in the gym. We're tearing it in the gym. The building work will only happen at night if there's protein in your body and if you're in the parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest state. You're resting. That recovery phase where the building work happens. Hypertrophy is how we build muscle by shape and volume. And hypertrophy is what we're more interested in for equal distribution and good form and good functionality of your muscle. So hypertrophy was explained in that video that it's triggered by those first 2 principles, the overload and the progressive principle. And so you might start off doing 15 to 20 reps of an exercise, and you might do about 3 to 5 sets per exercise. And as you increase the number of sets, you might reduce the weight, reduce the reps, but increase the weight. That's a great way to trigger hypertrophy. Still, you need to nail the same amount of protein. Your rest time between sets will be a lot less, about a minute or 45 seconds, whereas your rest time for strength training is can be even 2 to 5 minutes, because you're really lifting heavy. You're breathless when you drop that weight after a deadlift or after a bench press, you put it back on the rack. and then you have some time to recover thereafter. So understand the difference between strength training and hypertrophy. Now you might ask, well, how much cardio should I do? How much strength training? The answer is you have to do both, but how much is based on your body type and your goals and where you are midway along the journey of your goals. If you're an endomorph, kind of like I was, or a mesoendo, I need to always have a large portion of cardio, which means if you're someone that gathers fat very easily and you struggle to lose it, your ratio of time spent doing cardio activities needs to be a lot more than the amount of time you spend doing strength training. But if you want to build both, they might be equi-spaced in terms of time. If you're a mesomorph, which is you very quickly put on fat if you slack around and don't do much, and you can very easily lose it the moment you get active, you're likely a mesomorph. You might want to have 50-50 split in time or calories that you burn doing cardio as well as weight training. If you're an ectomorph, which is you very easily can eat a lot of junk food and stay lean, but you struggle to build muscle, you need to do a lot more resistance training, much heavier weights, probably an hour and a half to even 2 hours sometimes in the gym to really get a good workout of all your muscles. And you can get away with a 20-minute blitz of a very high intensity cardio or a quick 5-kilometer run in 20 to 25 or 30 minutes, depending on how fast you are, if you're an ectomorph. Those of you that are ectomorphs will know for sure that you're an ectomorph. And many of us that may not be default athletes. Many athletes are mesomorphs, by the way, like Usain Bolt, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and people like Mo Farah is an ectomorph. He will struggle to bulk up and add muscle. And people like Maradona is an endomorph, right? After he let go, very easy for him to pile on the weight. Okay, you might hear various diets. What diet are you doing? I tried this diet and that diet. Doesn't matter what they call the diet, whether they call it no sugar or low carb or Mediterranean or keto or 5-2, really doesn't matter what they call it. It's not about the name or the gimmick or the trend. It doesn't matter what is making the cover of Cosmopolitan this week or next month. It really doesn't matter. In 2024, the cover photo of Cosmopolitan is probably already planned out, and they probably have already chosen keto. The 2024 cover of Jan 2024 Cosmo magazine or Men's Health has already got that planned out by now. But really what will make a difference is what's inside of that, which is what's in that type of food is the macros. Whichever one you go for, if they claim to reduce fat and contribute to muscle, they will all work only if you create a calorie deficit. They will all lean towards nailing a certain amount of protein. There is no diet that is telling you to go for a low protein one unless you have some organ issue where protein overload might be working against you. And if you've not been told that by a doctor, then I don't want to stress you out about it. They will all have low sugar. There is no diet out there that is worldly popular on high sugar. There is not a single diet that is endorsing high sugar. The common denominator of all these is that it's low sugar. I love how Shruti is laughing. I wonder if she knows something that I don't know. They all recommend consuming low GI carbs. They will all lean towards less processed. They won't be endorsing more processed and more preservative pumped foods of foreign non-food items. They will all recommend some form of accountability, which is they will only work if you know how much is going in you, and you should have some idea of what's going in you. And we're always measuring, either using MFP or you're using your fist size, or you're counting 3 rotis. You're still measuring. They will have some form of measure nonetheless. 1 bowl of rice, 3 rotis, or 100 grams of MFP, they're all a form of measure. So if you're resisting measuring, I want you to consider you're still measuring when you go and order 1 pizza or 2 slices. It's still a measure, but you just don't want to know what the granular breakdown of that measure is. And they all factor in timing, which is if you had 2,000 calories of pizza before bedtime, and then you sleep for 8 hours, guess what happens when that 2,000 calories is digested? You're sleeping, and you might be running in your dreams, but that burns 0 calories. And so all that is going into storage. And it will only be expended or flatten your blood glucose curve if you are running physically right away. Those of you that sleepwalk or sleep run, big kudos to you, might find you lose 3 kilos overnight in your sleep. Intermittent fasting is a demonstration of leveraging the benefits of timing. And so intermittent fasting, first of all, has been around for thousands of years. We've just got a posh name now called intermittent fasting. But it's existed in many spiritual and religious practices in almost all faiths and beliefs, whether Judaism, Christianity, as a Catholic, whether you practice Lent or Ramadan, or fasting around religious festivals as a Hindu or a Jain, they've all had some form of fasting. Firstly, it's mind control. That can we not lust over food? Can we not be so influenced and suckers for our sensual pleasure of our tongue? Literally, these 3 inches in our mouth can be so responsible for a lot of detriment in our life, either the physicality of our body or something that we say. And so we are so acting so much to please this 3.5 inches of our tongue, and they cause a lot of damage to the rest of our body. Intermittent fasting allows you to discover how easy it is to build self-control, but more importantly, self-awareness. Many of us, till we start to observe, won't realize that every 15 minutes, especially if you're working from home, we're walking into the kitchen and opening the fridge or the pantry or the cupboards, which me and Shriti do because we're both laughing. It allows your digestive system to rest. Every organ that's being used in you and by you is being used. It needs recovery phase. Just like your heart, when we sleep, your heart rate lowers because there's a little bit of repair work going on in our heart as well, and every organ, including our digestive system. But many of us go to sleep on a full stomach, either loaded with alcohol or loaded with food or loaded with something that we're having before bedtime, which means instead of sleeping and your organs resting, they're breaking down food and utilizing calories when they should be utilizing calories only for repair work. They are utilizing calories for TEA, thermic effect of activity, not TEF, thermic effect of the breaking down the food for release of energy in your sleep. And intermittent fasting contributes significantly to thermogenesis. Those of you that are diabetics or know how to use a keto prick blood test, if you fast for 12 hours, you'll be in light cardio and you can see your ketone level. If you fast up to 16 hours, you will see you'll enter fast ketosis. So anybody that wants to lose fat very fast, if you can fast 20 hours a day, between hour 16 and hour 20, you will be mega burning fat. I'm saying that again, if you had 0-calorie drinks and just waters and green teas and black coffees and black teas for 16 hours of the day, and then from hour 16 to 20, again, you continued some form of keto and you stayed regularly active, or anyone that has done Ramadan, you would be entering ketosis during your fasting window very easily between hour 16 and 20. That's when the heightened level of fat burning is happening. We're not saying you do that. We do say, those of you that want to trial out intermittent fasting, you start off with a 16-8 split. So this image is showing the 0-calorie window, which is marked by this turquoise color, where it's showing the water and the hot drinks. So from 9 p.m. at night till the following day, 1 p.m. If that is your 0-calorie drink or food consumption or non-eating consumption, then you will, and you only eat, your eating window is from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., say that's your 8 hours of taking food, calorific food in, you will effectively be doing intermittent fasting and trigger fat loss. But it's only effective if your start time and your end time, you can be consistent with them. So it can't be like, hey, today I'm starting my fast at 1 p.m. The next day you wake up hungry and you like munch a lot at 8 a.m. as soon as you wake up or get to work. And then you're like, you know what, I'm going to eat for 8 hours and at 4 p.m. I'm going to stop and starve myself. That's a completely ineffective schedule. That will slow down your metabolism because your body can't figure out when food's coming or not coming. So it starts to conserve. It goes into conservative state. And so those of you who want to do intermittent fasting, 16-8 is a good split to trial. Those of you that have heard of keto, we don't condemn it, but we don't endorse it. Keto is mostly misunderstood and misappropriately used by many. For people that are diabetics, keto may help you. Keto is a great way to get energy from good fats. Predominantly for those that are non-veg, you'll get good fats and high protein from a lot of your meats or fish or chicken or eggs. Then you want to have vegetables as the second most by quantity, and least by quantity is fruit, because fructose and fruit sugars and any sugary stuff also contributes to blood sugar spike. But keto works well with intermittent fasting. We're not recommending it, we don't endorse it, but we do not condemn it. There's nothing wrong. If you do keto, you need to do it and do it properly, and you need to stay on it for a long time. When people go off keto, it's not surprising that they often revert back to their old ways, or they even add some more weight than before they started. But it is very effective if stuck to and if done very well. It still requires you creating calorie deficit. It gives you good sleep. It promotes fat as a source of energy, so it gets your body used to that. To do keto effectively, I'm going to say this number, listen to it carefully. To do keto effectively, in a day, ideally, you don't want to go more than 20 grams of carbohydrates. That's doing keto effectively. 20 grams of carbs. So your net carbs that enter your body, and net will be not counting fiber, but your net carbs, which is total carbs less fiber, should not be more than 20 grams. If you can do that, and then the rest is good fats, not bad fats. Bad fats is fried foods. Bad fats is trans fats, which are fats that are found in cookies. Bad fats are fries. Those have bad fats plus a lot of carb in them. Bad fats is a lot of dairy, a lot of cheese is bad fats. In moderation, you can have it when you are in your optimal fat range. And so good fats are avocados, almond nuts, cashew nuts, walnuts, those are macadamia, those are good fats that you can have. So how does keto work? Traditional diet, you eat glucose, your pancreas converts the glucose into energy in your cells, and then you get energy. Keto, glucose levels fall because you're not consuming more than 20 grams a day, so you deplete your body's glycogen, and then a signal is sent to your liver to break down fatty acids stored, and that releases energy. Here's the upside of keto. Every gram of your body fat gives you 9 calories, but every gram of your glycogen or glucose or carbs that you consume is only 4 calories per gram. So you're getting a lot more energy if you trigger ketosis. And how do you trigger ketosis? It happens slightly after 12 hours of fasting, and a lot faster after 16 hours of fasting. So that's your answer of how to trigger ketosis. That's a wrap of webinar 4. Next week, or this week, you're going to get an email, likely tomorrow, which will tell you to start and do what's called the 100s training plan. The 100s training plan is where you just do 3 exercises in a workout, maybe 4, but each exercise you're doing 100 reps of it. You're doing those 100 reps not all at once, but split as 40 reps, 30 reps, 20 reps, and 10 reps. So as the reps reduce in number, the weight that you're carrying increases in size. It will be explained in the email. Plus, I will also share some videos, and next week's workout will do them. So you could just do 3 exercises or 4 exercises, and your whole workout is done. It could take you 30 minutes or 40 minutes, but it will be a great way to trigger volume training and activate your muscles in a whole new way. We do recommend that everyone tries for once in their life, but try it for 2 weeks of intermittent fasting. It's not a must. If you've done intermittent fasting before and you didn't enjoy it, it's okay. If you want to rediscover it, do it again. I love it. I more or less skip breakfast. When I was at FitReat, because breakfast was available, it started to really mess me up, and I was not losing weight just because it was available. Again, a scarcity mindset. Our relationship to food is that, hey, this is a beautiful resort and there's loads of fresh produce, and I obviously got all the fresh produce, but I put a lot of that new Spanish cheese I was discovering on my plate as well. And I was adding extra calories in the morning when I didn't need to. Number 3 is an observation exercise. Look at the myths around food labeling or other grandmother tales on food or exercise that you might have been told growing up. Like your mom might have told you, gur is good for you because it's called good. Good equals good. Well, maybe it's not. We will find out the facts of jaggery. Gur is the Indian name of this brown sugar called jaggery. We will look at it in webinar 5, where you're going to come with your guests, and there will be some mind-blowing content on that particular session. So please, webinar 5 is an opportunity for you to bring your colleagues at work, your wives, your husbands, your partners, your kids can join. Invite them, ask them to register on that link in the bottom right corner. And we do invite teams to play a game of see who can have the most lives. So your coaches are going to ask you, who have you invited, how many people are coming, and what's their name? So we know to look out for them when they join. For the guests, the first 30 minutes is to explain a little bit about FITBANKER, explain what they're joining. So we're starting 30 minutes earlier for your guests, which is 6 p.m. You can still join at 6:30, but if you do have a guest, it's always a good idea, if you have a guest on, that you're on there to receive them when they join at 6 p.m. So join 30 minutes earlier, and at 6:30 we'll go into the technical content of your session. Remember, it's not next Wednesday, it's 2 Wednesdays for now. Anyone that's behind on webinars, even if you joined this webinar late, please watch this webinar from the beginning. The first 4 webinars are just unmissable and unmessable foundation at the physical level of the FITBANKER Challenge. So please, if you think, I've kind of got a sense of this program, I've missed nothing. If you've missed any part of the first 4 webinars, please use next week to catch up, or use this weekend to catch up and take on the assignments. Next week, Tuesday, is day 30. So I'd love to see your updates, and it'll be good to just see what we have created. Results are addictive, and so by sharing them, we drive our performance even more. On that note, it is a wrap. We are looking for leaders who inspire others to show up and take on their well-being, because we're in a world where you can make a difference to those around you and alter the trajectory of the rest of their lives. Leadership is scarce because few people are willing to go through the discomfort required to tell your childhood close friend to join, to tell a family member to join, to tell your mom to join. This scarcity makes leadership valuable. It's uncomfortable to stand up in front of strangers or even your family and interrupt what they've normally been doing and eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for so long. It's uncomfortable to propose an idea that might fail. They might laugh at you and say, there's no way I'm ditching my roti, my ghee, my gur, or my, what are they called? Pork scratchings. It's uncomfortable to propose an idea that might fail. It's uncomfortable to challenge the status quo. It's uncomfortable to resist the urge to settle. If you're not uncomfortable in your work as a leader, it's almost certain you're not reaching your potential as a leader. As with leadership is with muscle. If the muscles ain't uncomfortable or lifting something uncomfortable for them, they ain't growing, just as our leadership ain't growing. On that note, guys, it is a wrap. Thanks all for being on for this very powerful webinar. I'll now stop the live stream and I'll take 2 or 3 questions before we wrap up.